Mr. Harlan Pyan, is the circus in town? Is the circus in town?
Digital ally, you like took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, it's
I
like
knew
there's
you would
nothing to
think of
say.
stock
Well,
goes from
that's
4 to
exactly what
8.
happens. These are those hype things, and it's all impulsive. Oh, I got to jump on this thing, before I miss it. After you've already missed it, so you just see the same thing all over the place with
Yeah,
these
very.
things. So
You always like them to base and buying something from a base. You never chase stocks, do you, Harlan?
nope. And I miss a lot. But I've learned a long time ago that there comes a day where all of a sudden you wake up and you were chasing it, and the further it gets away from support, and all of a sudden, bam, something happens. You're like, whoops, ain't doing that again. So I just live and learn. You learn from your past mistakes in order to make yourself a better person.
It's high risk, high return, that strategy. So I don't like anything high risk either, which is why I don't trade it. But if you're, a gambler, you like to get out there and get down dirty, or if you're a big momentum trader, just be careful. You got to get out quick. So you got to be quick on these things if you're going to trade these things. What else is so? What's on your radar here, Harlan? You're obviously not trading the DGLY here. What's on your radar? What's setting up nice?
Well, it's after such a move that we've just had. I mean, if you look at the NASDAQ composite, what have we done? 225 points in 8 days, and here you are with, sitting up in new highs. Every indicator I see is showing overbought. So, remember, let me put it this way, I guess, when we were sitting at the beginning of August down in those 43 and a quarter range on the NASDAQ composite, that's when if you were long, you wanted to jump off the face of the cliff, right? Well, if you're long up here, it's just the flip side. There's people that are going, oh, we broke out. I got to buy. It's like, well, wait a minute. 8 days ago, we were 25 points lower than where we are here. So, you got to let the dust settle. I'm not going to be one that's going to go jumping on the NASDAQ right here after such a stellar run. Late summer trade, low volume trade. I'll just let stuff come back to me. Now, that all being said, as I go through charts, I start to see a couple of patterns that jump out at me. And a couple of them are, let's take a look at, let's say Twitter. Twitter's kind of bothering me a little bit. You hit a peak, you pulled back, and you're clawing your way back right up to that 47.5 peak level. So, what's it going to be? Is it going to be a double top up here, or is this little bear channel that's building off of the August lows going to break to the downside? So I see that. That bothers me right here. There could be a trade. If it puts in a double top and starts to break down, there's a short sell. If it builds out this bear channel and breaks to the downside, there's another short sell. Facebook is showing the same thing. Baidu is showing the same thing. Under Armour, it hit a peak, pulled back, came up, retested its highs, tried to break into a new high and failed. So I'm seeing some cross currents out there. And, so when I start to see that, I kind of pull in my horns and I go, all right, these stocks, they're just not the screamers that are following through, and they're looking as though, at least in the short term, they're struggling. So, but what do you expect after a 225 point run in an extremely short period of time? You do need to have some sort of digestion or consolidation of those gains, and that comes two ways. You're either going to pull back through price, that's one way to digest the gain, or you go sideways and digest those gains through time. So, right now, it's hurry up and wait.
So you're not getting your new NASDAQ all-time high hats out here yet then, Harlan? Then
No.
bring the NASDAQ 5,000 hat out of the closet there from the year 2000?
Isn't that something? When people give projections, it sounds all great. It gets you all excited and everything. But here's the reality. How do they know? And if they know, do you really think they're going to tell you? So, so I don't really put a lot of faith in projections. It sounds all good and everything. I'd rather just pay attention to support, resistance, and what are the charts telling me? It's one less thing, one less amount of noise that I don't have to listen to. I'd rather just listen to what the market's telling me by the action that it's exhibiting.
We got Dr. J in the chat, Harlan. He's asking about some technicals on HAIN. They actually did report earnings here this morning, 90 cents versus 89 cents, of 583 million versus 578 million. So beat on the top, beat on the bottom. The stock is getting a $3.57 lift here in the pre-market. So HAIN coming to this old $90 area. What do the technicals look to you like on that one, Harlan?
Well, overall, when I look at the chart, let's just say from the peak of May, this is a really wide, loose, sloppy chart. It's just, all over the place. Sure, one could build a case where, yeah, there's a trend within a trend all over the place, but it's just wide, loose, and sloppy. And it seems as though, every time this thing gets strong, it gets strong for 3-4 days, and then it putters out.
Yeah.
So, for me, it's just one of those names that are just a bit too sloppy for me to get any sort of decent gauge on it. Only the best and forget the rest, and sloppiness is volatility. I mean, it works for you, but by the same token, it works against you. And look at those big average daily ranges on this stock. So, to each your own. For me, I'm just not seeing anything I like with that particular name at this point in time. So maybe I'm just not seeing it. But based on my methodology, it just doesn't work for me.
What about Alcoa?
So you said it's popping? Did you say it's popping?
Yeah, it's up to $90 here this morning here on the, actually just ticked up to 90.5 here right now on their earnings report. So it's a big move for this.
Hey, sure is. That's a nice move. So you got to watch that too, because, strength tends to get sold and earnings pops tend to get sold. So you have to take that into consideration that, if you bought it ahead of earnings and here it's popping for you, congratulations. And, you got to pay yourself, buy the rumor, sell the news, I guess. It depends if you're a short-term trader, or an investor. So if you're a short-term trader and you bought it yesterday, hallelujah. That's kind of the way I'm seeing that one.
Yeah, and even if you're looking at this chart, like how often, like you were saying, it's going back and forth and it's choppy. It seems like, the fade trade on this one almost jumps out at you, because how often you see a 4-point move and then a continued another 4-point move. Maybe in May we saw it once, but for the most part, this thing jumps 2-3 points and seems to give it right back. Like even the trading in May and June, thing went between 90 and 92 for like a month there. You could have just been scalping that whole channelingstocks.com thing going right there in May. So
pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's just really choppy and sloppy.
Choppy and sloppy, so he's not into choppy and sloppy. Harlan likes patterns and patterns jumping out. Yeah, I got to ask you about this one. I was highlighting this one yesterday. I was thinking about you. What do you think of Alcoa here, AA? Because I was looking at this. It looked like a Harlan chart to me, where it went from 15 to 17 to pull up. Then it came back down, washed out a few people below 16, and now it's starting to round and starting to look higher again. What do you think of this AA chart?
Well, this is a good example. If you look at this chart and you compare it against Hain, just look at it from the March through current day. What's the overall trend of the stock? It should just jump right out at you. It's obviously up. It's above the 50-day, trending higher. And you're right. You saw that one point in time, it peaked out at 17 and change. And what did it do? It pulled back off highs to trend channel support and the 50-day moving average. That's all you needed to know. Just a classic, the trend is your friend. As long as it's away above the 50-day and trending higher, I got nothing bad to say about it. Now, if you bought the dip, down in that 15.5 zone, well, where's resistance? That's all you need to know right here. So 17.5? So that's exactly, if you look at that chart on a 6-month daily with a 50-day, everybody, this is exactly what you want your whole account to look like. If you can get your whole account like this, you can clearly see that one after another, when they start breaking down, that ought to tell you something. And that's real news that you can use versus noise. So great looking chart.
What about the Plug Power? You were looking at that a few weeks ago. Are you still in that one, Harlan? PLUG?
I am. I've got such a small position that, It's to me, it could go to zero and it's not going to make a difference in my overall
Right. So it's a little more of a
portfolio.
speculative play for your portfolio. What's the chart saying to you on plug power
Well,
PLUG?
just kind of working its way higher, a little bit here, a little bit there. I'd like to see some sort of bigger pullback off highs pattern show up, and I'm just not seeing it yet. But in the meantime, off of the May lows, it's working its way higher. 2 steps forward, 1 back, 2 forward, 1 back. It's bunny hopping slowly but surely along the way. So if it wants to be a creeper, hey, I'm fine with it. If I see a nice big pullback off highs like we saw with Alcoa, and it breaks to the upside, I'd probably add to my position. So fuel cell was starting to wake up too, though, by the way.
Which stock was that? Oh, fuel cell. Yeah, it took off yesterday, FCEL. Finally got above that whole 250 area just a few days ago, and then it blasted off into orbit yesterday, going from 267 up to 284. You know which one isn't taking off? Those Ballard Power. Usually all three of these move together. BLDP's been a little laggard here. Can't get kick-started.
Sure has. Yeah. So, well, just wait for some analysts come out and say something, and that'll take care of that.
That'll kickstart that one there, too. These things
pretty much.
Yeah, these things went parabolic there. If you just go back to March, I think it was, when they all really took off there and basically doubled and tripled in just a short period of time. And, and that's why we were warning you earlier on like the GGLY and looking at, these ones that double and triple in a couple of days. Like you always say, Harlan, sell your peanuts while the circus is in town. And if you
it's just what happens when the dust settles? What happens when the riots are over? What happens to when we now return you to our regularly scheduled programming? Yeah. There's nothing happening in Missouri. Yeah. When that all happens, it's it's just a non-event and there's nothing going on and it's pure hype. And that's about the point in time where the greater fool theory takes over, and the last guy in is the guy that's going to get stuck holding the bag.
Yep. Thoughts on Apple? We broke through 100 there yesterday. Almost got up to an all-time high. I know they were all saying it there, but I believe the adjusted all-time high was $100.72, and we got to $100.68 here yesterday. So it does look like we missed it by 4 cents here. Harlan, it's trading down now in the pre-market as the S&P futures are starting to roll over a little bit. We're down 3 points. It's at $100.30. What are your thoughts here on Apple? Because everybody's watching it right now.
Well, I think if you own it, you've got no problems with it. It is on the higher end. This is more of a trend channel. I'm looking at everything since, let's just say the April lows, daily chart frequency, and, line up your bottoms. There's a nice, clearly defined uptrend channel when you line up your tops as well. And if you line up your tops, you can kind of see we're close to, the tops of June and late July. Draw a trend line, and you can see we're tagging trend channel resistance. So, in the short term, it's made a nice move. Look at that pullback off highs. You're looking late July through early August. It looks just like Alcoa. That was your trade. It hits a peak, pulls back off its highs, takes the 50-day, draw your line, and bam, off to the races. So I've got nothing bad to say about it. It's in a clearly defined uptrend channel, but it is closer to trend channel resistance.
Any other stocks that look like Alcoa? That's what we're looking for here. Is there anything else on your radar?
Well, there's a lot of stocks that have retested highs, and when I say retested highs, they've made really big runs. Look at Tesla. Tesla is a name that, it came up, and, here you are basically retesting your highs, and it's a bit extended up here, and the stock is starting to show you that. I'm looking at Tesla and I go, where's trend channel support? In the low 240s level, off of the May lows. Just draw your trend line and line up your lows. And, if you line up your highs off the May peak, the beginning of May, you'll see this issue tagged trend channel resistance. So, let it pull back, let it form a pullback off highs, let it get down into those support zones, and then take a look at it. I think YY comes up the same. If you want to look at another one, yep, pretty much. A little bit more tight, but, what jumps out at me, draw a line across 80-ish. 80ish. There's a nice support level up in that zone too. So let these names pull back. They've just made nice runs. Let them form, pull back off high patterns, to support levels, and then you better start getting interested in them. So, but for right now, to be expected after the move we've had in the last 8 days, to pull back would be a healthy thing. So that's my views.
We've got Vegas Trader in the chat asking about another aluminum company, CENX, and this one has been on an incredible run. Back in July, it was $16. It's now almost $22. The trend definitely jumps out at you on this one. It's pretty much straight up here, Harlan, but it's kind of coiled up here in the last few days. Do you think this could be gearing up for another run? CENX.
I don't know. It seems like it's kind of struggling. If you look at the first week of August, it just was so tight, and it was just fighting it out. But, so you eked up a little bit higher. For me, yeah, the trend is your friend. The overall trend is looking pretty nice. But look how far away it is from the 50-day moving average.
Yeah,
that's 4 points. So I suppose if you drew a 20-day moving average, might look a little bit better. But, it all depends on who are you. Are you a 20-day moving average trader? Are you a 50-day moving average trader? I use moving averages to help define my fluctuation risk. The 20-day moving average, simple, is right around $20 a share. Heck, that's almost 10% lower, and its uptrend can still be intact. I mean, but if, a big trade would be if it works its way down to 18. But in the short term here, if the stock does want to trade, I look at moving averages, kind of like people. There's all types of people out there on the planet. Guess what? There's all types of people or all types of moving averages. And, some stocks will trade better off the 20-day moving average. Some will trade off of the 50-day. You have to find what the stock is actually trading off of. Currently, since this issue broke out in June, into a new high and started stair-stepping higher, it's been trading off the 20-day moving average. So that is what I would personally, if I owned it, I'd use that as my guide to allow for fluctuation risk. But that's just me. That's just being a trend follower based upon the moving average.
Two more quick ones before we let you go. I'm going to tie these two together. It's AT&T and Verizon, because both of these stocks went parabolic there about a month ago, and they've given back all of those gains, and they're now sitting down here at the lows. And even looking at Verizon, look at this chart from the last 7 days. It's got the same high in the same area, right around $49, like almost perfectly. And if you look, where it was support before from June, July, the old support becoming a resistance trick, big time here on Verizon. Wow, resistance very well defined on this one.
Well, I was just keying in on the AT&T because that one was pretty crazy. But, you're right. I mean, you see these big spikes. See what I mean? These spikes, when these stocks spike up like this, strength tends to get sold. So, I just be real kind of careful when you start seeing these stocks. If you're there, use that strength to sell some peanuts. Nobody said you had to, sell the whole thing. But, you got to lock your gains along the way, So, I guess I'm looking at Verizon, and I got to sit there and say, who was buying this thing at $53 a share?
It was crazy. I think even in the pre-market that day was over, it was even more than that. It got up to like 54 or something. That was when the whole, what was that, Brent? Remember? It was like FTR, wasn't it? Frontier was, what were they doing? Frontier? And that kickstarted the whole communications sector.
I don't know. Let's take a look at it for you here. I had Brent hop off the desk to grab Brianna for us.
Yeah, so FTR anyways was the catalyst there. It kickstarted the whole sector. Then you had CTL taken off, and all these communication stocks just had these ridiculous pops here. And then even the big guns like AT&T and Verizon, these are low beta stocks. They don't pop $2 in a day. And when they do, what do, Harlan?
You got to sell them. you just got to sell those peanuts. I mean, it's a huge move. It's like you said, they're low beta, they're big cap names. There's not a lot of scale to them. And you're right, a big move is $2 on a stock like this. So, when I see stuff like this, it's like, oh my gosh, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Go start looking for a car. So.
Well, anyways, Harlan, Again, thanks for all your insights here. We always have Harlan Pyan here on Wednesdays from 8:35 to 8:50, and we're a little bit over. We got to hop off to Brianna for the headlines. So, Harlan, thanks a lot again for being on the show, and we'll talk to you again next week.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me. Take care.
Thank you, Harlan.